unfortunately, I got another sad one. So, it's Thursday, and over the weekend, our dog Sweet Pea, she stopped eating. And so, your mom took her to the vet, and they ran some blood work on her, and it wasn't that good. And so they suggested to go into another one of the vets here in town. And so they ran an ultrasound on her, and they found that she had cancer in her spleen and up into her lungs and stuff like that. We've known for probably about 2 years that she's had tumors. And so at one point we'd had a bunch of them cut off, and she had one on her ankle. And it went away for a while, and then it came back. So we knew about that, and she was on a chemo treatment for that. But unfortunately on Monday, you know, the vet said, you know, we'd be lucky if she was still with us for about the next 24 hours. And so we decided to go ahead and put Sweet Pea to sleep. And it's really sad because she was just a great dog. So, how we got Sweet Pea. So your mom used to work at this place, and she would drive by there was this club, and she saw Sweet Pea out there. And then she noticed that there was a little bowl in the parking lot. It was a club. And, you know, she noticed that there was the bowl. So she left her number and a little message that says, hey, I see that you're feeding this dog. I would like to try to help catch it. And so the lady who was feeding Sweet Pea worked at the business that was next door to this club. And so she reached out to your mom and said that she'd been feeding her for, I think, like about a year. We had a really bad snowstorm or ice storm here in like 14, and I think Sweet Pea was out in that. And how she lived through that is just crazy. But we almost think that she was like part of a puppy mill and got away or something, because she had looked like she had just had puppies when we got her. And your mom and the lady went like all through the stuff back there, and they couldn't find where she was living at. So we'd give her like toys and stuff like that, and they'd be missing, but we'd never find them. And so, you know, your mom would take food before work and after work, put it in the bowl, or the lady there would. They'd both check to make sure that there was food. And so at the time, so this goes on for a few months, and we're looking for a house at that point in time, because I was out of the Army, and you know, so we're looking at staying in Augusta more permanently. And so I remember before we would actually tell the realtor that we actually wanted to look at a house, like physically go inside, we would sit down and we would get a list of the houses that we would kind of like to look at. And then we would kind of drive around and check everything out beforehand. I know that might sound stupid, but that's the way we did it, because we wanted to see like the neighborhood and things like that before. And so every time that we would do this on like Saturday or Sunday or whenever we were doing it, or both days, you know, we would sit down, like I said, we'd get a list of houses together. I would like Google map them, or so that way we would know which house to go and which route to take and everything. And I'd always have to plan the route in to go and stop by and feed Sweet Pea. And so for about 6 months, your mom was trying all kinds of stuff. Oh, sorry. We had her dog Lily. And Lily was another rescue that we had. And the only thing about Lily is sometimes she didn't like dogs getting in her face. She would snap and stuff. So we weren't exactly sure how it would go. But your mom took Lily, and they were like walking around, and at the time I was working selling cars, and that didn't pan out for me. I'm not made for that world, but I'll talk about that sometime later. Anyway, so I'm sitting there at work. Your mom calls me up, she's crying. We finally got her, we got Sweet Pea. And so taking Lily, she came over and started playing with Lily. They were able to put a collar on her or a leash on her. And we brought her to the house. And I still have pictures of the first day that we got her, and I'll put some up here. But yeah, we got her to the house, and those two were like best friends. She followed Lily everywhere. And you know, at a point in time, we would take Lily for little walks around the neighborhood. And I'm not sure if something happened to Sweet Pea or something like that, she would not walk. She would not walk. So we never forced her to. And then we found well, with Lily, we started going to this nice dog park. And so we'd take the both of them up there. Well, going back a little bit, I remember, so like I said, we were just about to move to the house that we're in now. And we had Sweet Pea and Lily in the backyard. And the guys that were moving did not want to go in the backyard because they saw Sweet Pea. And that's the bad thing about pit bulls. It's like people saw her and they thought she was all scary and everything. And then we had Molly. And they were like, oh, there's a fluffy dog. Let me go pet her. Like, no. Sweet Pea, you could go up, you could pet her, you could hug her, you could do whatever you wanted to. Not Molly. But so... yeah, she had a little bit of separation anxiety when we first got her, and so we had a little like coffee table, and she chewed all four corners off of it. And then, like I said, we would go to the park with them, and she's a solid muscle, so she would pull. She'd be so excited. You know, just her tail. Luckily, no one chopped her ears and no one chopped her tail. But the bad thing about not chopping her tail is that thing was like a solid brick and it just smacked you and oh, it hurt. But, you know, we'd take her to the park. And she was really loud when she would play, and so we were always worried people would think something about that. But a lot of the people ended up getting to know her and everything, and so that wasn't a problem. But yeah, she was a good dog. She never really gave us too much. Oh, when we moved to the new house, though, someone saw her in the backyard, and this is something that we were always worried about. Of course, once we got her, we had her microchipped and we had her spayed, everything like that. We got her up to date on her shots. She had heartworms, but we got her treated for that. We got all of her shots and all that fun stuff. But someone saw her in the backyard, and we weren't there, but they asked our neighbor, you know, about her, and said, that looks just like my dog. You know, she ran away like a couple weeks ago. And luckily our neighbors are great people, and they were like, no, they've had that dog for years, even though we hadn't had her that long, but physically had her that long. But, you know, from the neighborhood that guy was saying and where Sweet Pea was at was two different places in town. And the sad part about it is he was probably trying to say that to try to get the dog so that, or to get her, because she's that blue-nosed pit that everybody wants, and you know, if you breed it, you can sell the puppies. And we had no desire to do that because she had already lived a rough life, and so she needed a good life after that, and I think that we gave it to her. But like over the last week or so, you could just kind of tell that she was, and I thought it might have been because, you know, she had Lily, and we had to put her to sleep in, I think, 2022 because she had kidney failure. And then everything that happened a couple months ago with Molly, I think, you know, I was just thinking that she was a little down, a little depressed because she didn't have a partner anymore. And so she's been sleeping a lot, but that's nothing, 100% quite new. But yeah, she didn't eat over the weekend, and normally she's so excited at night to get her bone. And so she'll just sit there and whimper and whimper and whimper, and she'll want a bone, and then one person will give it to her. Then she's smart enough to try to go to the other person and try to get a bone from them too. But we were never really too hard, never really tried training her on a bunch of stuff, and I think a lot of it had to do with we just kind of felt bad about everything that had happened to her up until we got her. And so yeah, but it's been weird the last couple of nights because she's been laying on the floor, or you could be downstairs, and if she was upstairs you could hear her snoring through the floor. And like I said, she was just a big softie. You could lay down with her. Like, I got pictures of her and Luca, luckily. Like, right after Luca was born, I just set him right on top of her, and she just looked so happy. And yeah, I mean, she was a great dog, and we're going to miss her a lot. And now we're just waiting, because we got her cremated. So I think it was just, we weren't expecting this to happen anytime soon, and that's the bad part about it sometimes, is that these things happen and you just have to deal with it. But I don't think I have any funny videos of her eating bananas. I know I don't. That was just a thing with Molly. But I'll try to put all the pictures that I have up as this is going through, kind of like I did with Molly. And now we only got Chester, and so it's been different, because we had Tiga from 18 years, I think. We've had Chester for like 15 years. We had Sweet Pea. We got her to the house right at about 10 years ago. It's just over 10 years ago. It's funny because the story popped up on my phone the other day, from 10 years ago. And it's one of the first pictures I took of her in the house, or in the backyard, was with Lily. So I wish we could have had her longer, but thinking about it, she was probably about 12 years old, and for a pit bull, that's pretty good. And the only good side about it, like I said, is I know that if we wouldn't have got her, she might have got ran over. She definitely would have died really bad of heartworms or something else. So I'm glad that she chose us. And I'm glad for the time that we